Okay, we start with our Blender view. Always try and make our views such that we can see what's going on in multiple angles. What we're going to do is go to View, Side View, and we're going to add a cube. Don't worry too much about the size at the moment, it can be resized at any time. But we want to make sure that this cube, the size of the cube, is resized before we start adding different things on it. We're going to go to Front View, and we're going to move the cube over here. And just before we do that, I'm going to move it up a little bit. I'm going to select a wheel, go to Side View, I'm going to press Shift D, and I'm going to move that wheel at the front. And you can see that the parent of that wheel is sort of stayed by our dotted line. If not, reparent it back to our main block. I can also extend the end of this out to accommodate for that block. So technically, our wheel should be attached to that block, and that's our rotate point. Same deal, I'm going to go to this side, select this wheel, press Shift D, move it to the front, select this block, go to Edit Mode, and move it out. Okay, going to go back to our body. We're going to go to Edit Mode, we're going to press W and say Subdivide, W and say Subdivide, just twice. At that point, what we want to be able to do is cut out a couple of sections. We're going to go to Front View, press A to deselect, press B, and select these two rows of vertices, and press X and say Delete Vertices. Again, we want to come over to the other side, press B, select these two rows of vertices, and press X and say Delete. Just for future reference as well, what we're going to do is grab these vertices and move them up about halfway, go and grab these vertices and move them up about halfway. We'll come back to those. We go to the side view of our cube, and we're going to press the A key to select everything, and we're going to go to our size tool, and we're going to shrink the cube a bit. What we're after though is that don't forget the arm bit here that's going to come down, that's going to make the top part. We need to actually cut out some sections of our cube. So make it about that big. We need to do some repairing, so we're going to select these four vertices. To do that, right click the vertice by pressing the Shift at the same time. Press F to repair. Right click. Select those four vertices, press F to repair. Select these four vertices, press F to repair. Then come to the other side, select these four vertices, F to repair. These four vertices, F to repair. These four vertices, and F to repair. So we actually have a block here. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're actually going to delete a couple of points from our block to make way for our arms. First of all, we're going to we're actually going to come to the back here, press B and select this row of vertices, press X and delete. So we've actually deleted the full back half. And we're going to select this middle vertice and press X and delete that one, so we're left with a block. This will actually be where his head goes. We could even add it in now, just so you're aware, by going back to Object Mode, go to Side View, and this time we're going to add a plane, and this will actually be where the platform that his head is going to go on. We're going to resize it down, we're going to move it into the center here, resize it back up just a little bit, and the whole point will be his head will be underneath, and when we want to transform it, we'll actually rotate it on the x-axis and it will flip up, and his head will then be facing forward. So at the moment we have a well, we've got that plane up there, and we can sort of move that out of the road for now. It's okay, but it's a good, quick, easy step. We're going to go to our cube, go back to edit mode, and there we have it. Okay, we need to be able to put in 2 blocks. We'll go to object mode, and to make this a bit easier to see, I'm going to actually go to add new object, add a color, and add a red color to it. Once I've done that, I'm going to go back to side view. I'm going to add another cube, and this will be the top part of the arm. So we'll size it down. We'll go and move it to where it's supposed to be in the back part of the arm. Size it down a bit more, and this is going to have to be a bit of a trial and error process. Like that. Might be easier to go to object edit mode, select these 4 and drag them up to the top. Now specifically what I would like to be able to do here is make sure that this arm, if I select those points, is about the same width as that there, and make that a bit wider as well, so it's actually looks, that point looks square. Go back to object mode. Now the next thing we need is that we need the forearm down here. We're going to add another cube, press S for size and size it down, move the cube underneath like so, and then start looking at resizing it as we need to. So resize it so it fits in that cube fairly nicely, and I'm going to go to this one, resize it this way, resize it a little bit more, and it may be at the moment that our forearm is still a little bit too large. We'll see. What probably is the case for us though is that this gap here might be a little bit too large. What we're eventually going to do is place the wheels approximately in this position, and that's what our truck in a sense will almost look like. We've actually got our wheels in our upper arm, and what we're actually going to do is have a gap in this forearm. Move that to the back. The important thing now is not to do all the fine detail, but to get the blocks in place. But I'm going to select both of these blocks and press Shift D, and I'm going to move them to this side of the model. So again, making them fit like that. So if you can imagine a couple of headlights here, a couple of windows, and our truck is starting to take shape. The specific thing we need to address now though is so it makes sense, you can see how the arm is actually going to transform. At the moment this should just be a demonstration. You don't have to necessarily follow these steps, but you should pay attention and look at what's going on. For instance, at the moment, besides the middle part that was quite complicated to split up, just about most objects are either cylinders or blocks in our model. What we're going to do in this particular case is that we're going to get this forearm, press Shift and parent it to this upper arm, and press Control P. mate parent. What I want to be able to do is select this top forearm, and we're going to change the middle pivot point to just outside the forearm, like there. We'll move it up to the top of the shoulder. We'll come back over here and keep on clicking until I've got my pivot point where I want it to be. When I do that, I'm going to go Object, Transform, Center Cursor. As you've seen, when I move, because of the parent, when I've actually got this in place, then we're able to have these modules together, so that when the top arm moves, the forearm moves as well. We now need to set the center point for the forearm, which will actually be directly in the center of the forearm. Afraid these arrows are giving me a bit of trouble. It will actually be right in there, in this joint, because that's where the elbow generally would be. So we'll move that like that. Okay, when I'm happy with that, that's with this block selected, we're going to go Object, Transform, Center Cursor. What that's done is that it's made the pivot point for the forearm this point here, and the pivot point for the upper arm this shoulder joint. Now watch what happens. This will actually, as a demonstration, be what the transformer sequence will be. This right arm will actually rotate on the Z-axis out like this. What will then happen is that the upper arm will actually rotate on the Z-axis and will actually flip out in front of the arm like that. It will then, as part of the transform sequence, come forward. That way you'll actually have your forearm and your upper arm in place, ready as part of the transforming sequence, and that will happen to both sides. Press Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z. At this point in time, you need to do the same to the opposite side. You need to select this upper arm and select the outside shoulder joint and press and center its cursor, and you need to select the forearm here and change its pivot point to be the middle of the elbow here. When you're happy with that, Object, Transform, Center Cursor. This has been a fairly large tutorial, but if you've done that successfully, you actually now have two upper arms, two forearms, the forearms parented to the upper arms, and I better make sure that's the case on this side. And in that sense, you're pretty much ready to almost get it transforming. That's enough for this tutorial, and see how you go.